Welcome to Faces and Aces Las Vegas, a podcast where we share great Vegas stories and talk to the people who make Vegas a fantastic place to visit. My name is Chris. So, as many of you know, blackjack is my game when I go to Vegas. I think I'd call myself a recreational player. What that means to me is I expect to lose what I bring to the table. I hope to win, but I expect to lose it. And I look at this as this is how much I'm willing to spend for a few hours of entertainment. Now, the odds say that if you're playing perfect basic strategy blackjack, and if you're not counting cards, the house has about a 52% advantage over the player. And honestly, the way that I play very conservatively with my betting. I would probably say the house has about a 55 to 60% advantage over me. Although I seem to do okay, but I'm very conservative with my money. I don't like to spend too much at the tables. Which is why I was really excited to talk to today's guest. Frank Scoblete is an author who's written several books on gambling, including a couple of books on blackjack. Over his gambling career, he was able to earn enough to put his kids through private school and also pay for their college tuition. Frank was kind enough to spend some time with me and give me some tips to help sharpen my game. But before we get into that, there are a couple of things that I think that are worth mentioning. First, there is a new podcast joining the podcasting ranks. I'd like to give a shout out to Cousin Vito's Casino. I listened to the first few eps of his podcast and I've really enjoyed them. I think what I like most about his show is he offers a lot of great suggestions on a healthy approach to gambling. He gives a lot of good tips on not just gaming, but also how to have a good time at the casino. So if you'd like to check out his podcast, please go check him out. You can find him on Twitter at Vito's Casino, or you could go to his website, cousinvitoscasino.com. Next, if you're going to be in Vegas on the weekend of the 9th and the 10th, Richard Cheese is going to be performing at the Golden Nugget with his band Lounge Against the Machine. If you've heard this podcast way back on our holiday episode, we played a small snippet of his Christmas in Las Vegas. He does really great covers of some awesome songs in a lounge style. So if you're looking for that perfect Vegas weekend with that really quirky, cheesy, it's literally in his name, cheesy Vegas experience, you got to go check out Richard Cheese. I believe tickets start at $19. So if you're looking for a great evening's entertainment in Vegas on the weekend of July 9th and 10th, you got to go check them out. And to play us into the What Happened in Vegas segment, here's a little medley of Richard Cheese and Lounge Against the Machine.
Mama just killed a man. Put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Ow, mama, life had just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, woo, woo, woo. I do not want to die. Sometimes wish I'd never been born at all. Rolling down the street, smoking Indo, sipping on gin and juice. Lay back with my mind on my money. Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We got everything you want, honey. We know the names. We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease in the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. Watch it bring you to your knees. Watch you bleed.
This week's story is one that I shared on my other podcast, the Dave Podcast. This is something that happened to me a few weeks back when I was in Vegas for the 360 Vegas Vacation 3, which was a fantastic, amazing time. I know that Mark and Tony and Karen are currently putting together Vegas Vacation 4. When that finally gets announced, if you have a chance to go, you got to go. It's a really, really good time. So this is something that happened. I originally wasn't going to share this story, but the things that happened to me this day had such a weird ending, I couldn't resist telling the story. So please enjoy this excerpt from the Dave Podcast, where I share what happened in Vegas. So I went to Vegas this past week, And I went out there because I don't know if people of this show know that I have another podcast called Faces and Aces Las Vegas. And so every so often I have to go out there to record interviews with the locals of Vegas.
Hookers.
I wasn't able to find a hooker this. I didn't actually go look for a hooker because one of the stories that I have is about a hooker, and so I said I need to go find a hooker to interview to pair with this story that I have. And
Ooh, tough break to the wife. Just like, look, I mean, I just gotta talk to the hooker for the podcast.
I told my wife, if you get a call and I'm arrested for solicitation, it's not what you think. I swear to God, it's not what you think.
You're going to need to get Google glasses and wear those and like just to have evidence, just like it was totally above board, officer.
I swear to God, it was for a podcast. But I got up at 2 a.m. and I was just too tired. I just said, forget it. I'll catch it on the next trip I come out. But I did have a pleasant interview with Heather, who is a former. Actually, Heather is really awesome. She used to deal at many different Vegas casinos, and now she has online classes that teach people how to deal, and it's for free. She gives away the information for free, so that way, if you want a Vegas job dealing in a casino, you could watch her tutorial videos, and that'll give you a little bit of a leg up over your competition. And her website is vegas-aces.com. Okay, so
yeah, you had her on the show a couple of weeks back, right?
Yeah.
I remember her episode. It was great.
She's awesome, and so many people said she's so cool, please have her on again. So I reached out to her again, and we sat down and recorded another interview, and we did it at a coffee house in the upstairs area where they have some business offices, and we were in the common room area recording our interview. We were about 15 minutes from being done, and a guy came out of the elevator, a homeless guy, and went into the bathroom. And he was there for like a good 10 minutes. And we heard him wrestling around. We're still recording our interview, and we hear him wrestling around, and he comes back out and he says, could you help me out with some money? And I look at the guy and I said, buddy, I don't give money, but I would be more than happy to buy you a meal. We're about 10 minutes out from being done. Can you give us 10 minutes and then we'll go downstairs and we'll grab a bite to eat? And he says, no, I've already eaten. I don't need that. I need money. Can you give me some money? I said, sorry, pal, I can't help you. And he looks over at Heather and says, can you give me some money? She says, I don't have any money on me. I leave all my money in the car. And so he's like, I just need some money because I need some new clothes. I tried to wash this shirt in the bathroom and I have it, I want to get myself looking respectable because I want to get a job. And I just need to go buy a shirt. So I said, buddy, okay, tell you what, we're done in 10 minutes. We'll go down to Fremont Street. We'll go buy you a shirt. And he says, no, man, it's, nothing's open right now. It's Sunday. Nothing's going to be open. I'm like, are you kidding? You go into any gift shop in any casino, they're going to have a shirt. And he says, no, man. And he looks at me and goes, you got a nice shirt. Can I have that?
Whoa.
So I unbutton my shirt and I'm like, buddy, you can have my shirt. If this will help you get a job, sure. So I take off my shirt, hand him my shirt. He's like, thank you so much. Thank you. And he puts it on and he walks out. Okay. So we finish the interview. Heather and I hang out for a little bit. I say goodbye to her. I go back to my hotel room, grab a new shirt and head back out for the evening's activities. I go back to downtown Las Vegas. And as I'm driving to the parking lot, I see the guy handcuffed, head down on the hood of a police car, and he's getting arrested. And he's wearing my shirt.
Oh my God.
So in my mind, what's going through my mind is like, I was wearing that shirt all day out in the Las Vegas heat. I've sweated all over the inside of the collar. My DNA is all over that shirt. What did this guy do?
Oh no.
So I go park my car. I go over to where he's being arrested, and I, to the officers, I say, "Guys, hey, how you doing?" And they're like, "Hey, good evening." And I said, "Guys,
this is going to sound a little weird." But
I said, "What did this guy do?" And he goes, "He was jaywalking." And I looked at the cop, and the cop smiles, and I go, "No, okay, seriously, what did this guy do?" The cop says, "Well, we can't tell you." I said, "Yeah, but okay, mind you, now the shirt that I changed into is also another plaid shirt, very similar color to the one I gave him." And so I look at the cop, I said, "This guy's wearing my shirt." And the cop looks at my shirt, looks at his shirt, and he just goes, "Oh yeah, he is."
Oh my God.
I'm like, no, you're not understanding me. I literally gave this guy my shirt like 2-3 hours back. I have sweat, DNA, and what did he do? Like, am I going to get, like, did he murder somebody and they're going to come looking for me because this guy did it? And the cop, like, he puts 2 and 2 together. He's like, oh, I see where you're coming from. No, man, you're good. How many of those shirts do you have? I just look back at the cop like, hey, man, I like what I like. What can I say? But am I good? Am I cool? Like, there's no concern. He was like, no, he's narcotics. He's known for causing problems in this neighborhood. Yeah, he's going to go away for a long time. You're good. I'm like, okay, cool. Just had to check.
Oh my God, man. So you just have the Charlie Brown closet. It's just the same shirt, the same pair of pants. It's just like a dispenser. You just peel one off.
I just have a Kleenex box full of that shirt, and I just pull one out when I need a new one.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
But what are the odds that I'm going to run across the same guy a few hours later?
I know, in Las Vegas, where it's just like epic.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I just happened to turn down the right street at the right time, and there he is on the hood of a police car. It's like, man.
And his name was Dave.
Up next, we have Frank Scoblete. He's the author of many books about gambling, including I Am a Dice Controller, I Am a Card Counter, as well as non-gambling books such as Confessions of a Wayward Catholic. He's written for and appeared on many television documentaries, such as the What Would You Do If program on the Travel Channel, and has written for numerous columns for gambling magazines and websites. A very special thank you to listener Ed, who suggested that I speak to Frank. As many of you know, Ed is my very first Twitter follower, and whatever he says, I have to do. Many people don't know that that's written into the fine print of the Twitter user agreement. So, since Ed suggested it, I had to do it. Ed also helped me prepare for this interview, and he introduced me to Frank. So for that, I am very grateful. A very big thank you to Ed. And Ed, I look forward to having a drink with you in Vegas at some point in the future. Frank and I talked for about an hour and a half. For that reason, I'm going to split the interview into 2 parts. In this part, he talks about how he became a card counter, and he explains the discipline that it takes to do it professionally. So please enjoy part 1 of my interview with the #1 best-selling gambling author in the world, Frank Scoblete. Okay, so this is more of a conversational storytelling type podcast, although with you on the line, since I have your expertise, I would love to dig into some blackjack, if that's okay, rather than craps.
You can talk about blackjack, sure.
Okay, great. Now, I'm aware that you do gamble at casinos all over the country, but this is Faces and Aces Las Vegas, so we'll center most of our discussion around there.
Vegas is fine. It's interesting, my gambling career, so to speak. I started around 1989, the actual playing seriously. Mm-hmm. I knew nothing about casinos really prior to going around 1987 or so. The dates are a little foggy in my mind, so, when I give a date, it's a little foggy. I don't want people to look it up and go, oh, wait a minute, in the book you wrote it was, February 13th, something. Yeah, well, I wrote the book 25 years ago. Yeah. I had no knowledge of casino games. I mean, I played poker while I was in college, and I was pretty good against college kids because they were stupid. And by the end of a long evening, most of them were drunk and they were idiotic, and you could win money from them. But I was not any good. Mm. I started to play poker in the casinos, and I realized, forget it. I had like a forehead that was like an electric billboard. It would say, I have a good hand. And I couldn't stop myself. So I realized that there was no way I was going to become a good poker player. But I was an actor for 12 years. I owned my own theater company, and I was in about 50 plays. I produced about 70 of them. And in one of the last plays that I produced, and I was the star of, because in those days I was good looking and thin and, You know, I look nothing like it. It's like, before and after. Before I looked really good. After I looked like the before in a regular commercial. I said to my co-star, who ultimately I married and is my wife, I said, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. It was a story of a craps player who was a degenerative player, and the leading woman's role was this chorus girl who was, miserable and being taken advantage of by this businessman. And I had these great monologues at the end of the play. I mean, they were fabulous. Where the actor takes the stage and can chew up the scenery. I mean, Al Pacino would like the role. Yeah. So I said to my co-star, I said, I don't even know what the heck I'm talking about here. I'm talking about hard ways and yo's and 11s. What the heck is this? So I said, we got to go to Atlantic City, and I gotta look at the games. I got to learn, like, what the heck is this world? Well, we went to the Claridge. I met a man known as the Captain, who passed away several years ago, and I was hooked. I watched the blackjack game. And I thought I was really a genius. I looked and I went, if all the aces come out, nobody can get a blackjack. There must be a way to figure out what cards are left and whether they favor you or not. I had no idea that this was as old as the hills by that time. I mean, card counting started really somewhere in the 50s, and then Thorpe just exploded it around 1963. But I didn't know that. I thought I was like, oh, wow, look at this. I think I can learn how to figure a way to beat this game. Then the Captain showed me the technique for controlling the dice and craps. None of these things are, like a millionaire making. It's not like you walk in, card counting, you get a little tiny edge. Dice control, you get a little tiny edge. But an edge is an edge. Yeah. I got hooked. Within a year, I sold my theater company, and I just went all out, learning everything I could learn about the games I could beat. Writing-wise, I would write about every game. In other words, I'd look to see what are the best strategies at a game. How can I make a player, reduce the hit by the casino and simultaneously give them the thrill of participating. And I came up with certain emotional theories of gambling, which I put into the books. And occasionally I mention their emotional theories, but I think they really do help players.
Absolutely, because gambling can be very emotional.
You can go berserk.
Yeah.
A few drinks and you're like King Kong climbing the Empire State Building. You can get a view of everything, and then you're going to fall off and get smashed.
Yeah. Now, do you recommend, because the way that I play, I'm basically a robot. I know what to hit, what not to hit. Is that the better way to go than being an emotional player?
Yes.
And I'm talking blackjack.
A down emotion can stimulate you to bet more, trying to make up for any losses. And if, losing, no one likes to lose. I mean, I say to people, I hate to lose. I give a lot of talks and I'll go, I hate to lose. And, half the audience goes, and we hate to lose too. But they don't understand. I've lost as much as $10,000 in an hour. And this is counting cards. But, when you're counting cards and the game favors you and you've got big bets up, you got $500 up or $1,000 up, you can take a hit. I mean, the dealer's got as much of a chance to get good hands as you do. What gives you the edge in counts that favor you, the fact you get paid 3-2 for a blackjack. Dealer will get as many blackjacks as you get over time, right? But you get paid 3-2. So you've got the monetary edge there. We're going to get the same number of blackjacks, but I'm going to get paid 3-2. So I'm going to put my big bets up. Ultimately, I'm going to take your money on the blackjacks. The dealer has to hit his 16s, his 15s. You don't. You can double down on certain hands that you normally wouldn't when the count favors you. Could be an 8. Now, usually in single games, you will double down on an 8. But in a multi-deck game, you usually don't double down on an 8. But now you can when the count favors you. There's certain little things you can do to give you a decent edge when the game is favoring you. But if you're emotional, when I lost that $10,000 in an hour, this was like the late 1990s, so that was worth more than $10,000 now. I went to my room. I swear, I just curled up in bed in a fetal position, and I thought to myself, I'm too old to suck my thumb. But that's how I felt. And now it took me a little while to get that money back. You know, for some bizarre reason, you tend to lose more faster than win more faster. But anyway, yeah, if you're too emotional, you can get hurt. And I did in my early career, my first, I would say it was my second trip. Am I talking too much, by the way?
Not at all. It's actually, you're hitting all the bullet points that I was going to bring up coincidentally, so this is fantastic.
Oh, okay. So just rattle on. I mean, this is great as you get old. By the way, today is my birthday. I'm 69 years old.
Congratulations. By the way, this is my birthday too.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Now, there's a coincidence.
Yeah, I'm 45 today.
Ah, you're a child. My oldest son is 40, and my youngest son is 37.
Yeah.
They're still my babies, though.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah, I got my call from my parents this morning.
Yeah, my grandkids called me this morning and wished me happy birthday. And my son sent me a card. This is my oldest son, sent me a card. And it went, Dad, play your cards right, and I won't put you in a nursing home. And I thought that's the funniest card I've ever gotten.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, my first trip to Atlantic City with my then wife, we were there for, I guess, 8 or 9 straight days, and it was like the gods blessed me. And I thought, this is amazing. I was winning every day. It was beyond belief. Now I was only a $5 player. You know, so it was $5, and I could increase my bet to 25 or 30 or 40 or 50. If I played an 8-deck game, I would have to go way up. I'd go up to about 75 or 100 in a count that favored me, because 8 decks is a real annoying game. But every day was great. And we were walking along the boardwalk, and at that time, Atlantic City was booming. This is somewhere around 1990. It was booming. The Taj Mahal was being built, and it was going to be the biggest casino in Atlantic City. Captain was there with his crew. He had 22 of these high rollers that were with him. It was just a wonderful time, and I was winning. And I said to my wife, I call her the beautiful AP in my books, and I said, you know, if we keep this up, I'm thinking maybe we'll buy a casino. And she said, I think we could lose too. So we made a plan to go a second time, and this time it was going to be for 16 days. And I thought, this is it. We are just going to make money. This card counting is the greatest thing in the world. I wonder why other people haven't done it. We got clobbered. I mean, it was horrifying. Accounts would be high. I'd put out big bets. Bam, slaughtered. There was one moment at the Claridge, and this was like the last moment. The last amount of money I had, I was playing 2 hands. I had to split and double down on every hand. You were allowed to do that at the Claridge. I had $2,500 out. And that's all the money I had left, my gambling money. I wasn't using, house money. And I said, Lord, oh, God, this is it. I've got every penny out here. Well, the dealer shows a 6. And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm in. My hands were somewhere around 19 and 20 for every hand that I had. Yeah. And I thought, I'm going to nail him, Turns over, it's a 10. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember seeing very many 5s. Bam. He hits himself with a 5. I lose every penny. Yeah. Every penny that I had saved to gamble with and that I won on the last trip. I lost all of it. So the beautiful AP and I, we went back to the captain's house on our way home, rang the bell. He came to the door. He took one look at us, and he goes, there they are with empty pockets. And it was the truth. I'd blown it all. I had lost my cool. I bet way too much, figuring, hey, come on, I got to start winning. I mean, I have the edge in these counts. And we had lost it all. And, boy, that taught me a lesson.
Yeah. But at what point did you start to take gambling seriously as the potential for additional income? Because I understand that you used to take gambling runs to put your kids through private school. Is that correct?
Yeah, the tuition runs.
Yeah.
when we were really going, and gambling was, I had a first marriage. It was King Kong Part 1. And I was getting a divorce from my first wife, and it was horrible. I mean, I was in tremendous debt. I was paying for her to go to graduate school. I was paying the mortgage on the house. I was paying for the kids, even though basically I had the kids every weekend. It just was, the money was just flowing out, and I was losing money like you couldn't believe. I was teaching. I had a teaching job. I loved teaching, but it just wasn't enough to pay. So I figure this is maybe 88, something like that, and going through this divorce and getting deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. I'm sitting on the beach in Cape May. This is in New Jersey, not very far from Atlantic City. And I'm sitting with the beautiful AP, and I'm looking at my two little boys playing in the ocean. I'm depressed as could be, and I said to the woman who would then become my wife, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want to send them to a private high school. I want to pay for their college so they don't have to pay back student loans. I'm $40,000 in debt, and $40,000 around 1988. That was a lot of money, and it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know what the heck I'm going to do, you know? And she said, don't worry about it. You're going to become a famous writer. And at that time, I'd had a few things published, but, I'm not going to become a famous writer. I'm making $15 writing book reviews. And she says, you're going to become a famous writer, and we are going to take off with the gambling stuff. And I just, I didn't believe her. From that moment on, it just started like kind of a snowball down a mountain. By 1993, I would say that we were going to the casinos 130 days a year. And this is even though I had a teaching job. We'd go to Atlantic City on the weekends. I'd even bring my kids with me. Which really I do not recommend doing. I mean, I don't actually want my kids to gamble. I think a part of me has been very lucky that I have the discipline, especially after getting blown away that second time, to play properly. But slowly but surely, 130 days, really learning how to count cards. In those days, Las Vegas had the greatest blackjack games you'd ever want to play. There was a game at the Maxim, which I really attribute to making me, a high roller. You might have heard of this game, although being your age, you might not have. The Maxim now is, I forget what the name of the hotel is now, but it's across the street from Bally's. Mm-hmm. I think maybe it's a Westin. They had a single deck game where they dealt out all but one card. Huh. There was no hitting on soft 17. You could surrender your hands. If you got a blackjack and you were betting $5 or more, you got a dollar coupon that could be used anywhere in the casino as if it's a real dollar.
Wow.
Okay, I mean, this is like an amazing game. You didn't even need to count cards to have an edge if you knew the basic strategy for single deck. Yeah. Well, my wife and I played 2 hands each, 8 hours a day. We'd get down there early in the morning. There were like 4 of these single deck games, and the rest were all these 6-deck games, which still had very good rules. But we played 2 hands each, 8 hours a day. And I went from being a $5 player to being a $500 player. It was just amazing. We stayed there. We were going to be there for about a week or 2 weeks. And I thought, we're not leaving this game. And we stayed there for the entire summer and went back in the fall when I had to go back to teaching. And I would say that turned me into somebody that pursued gambling as a way to make some extra money.
Wow.
Yes, the game was amazing. And when they ran out of cards, they just grabbed the discard pile and shuffled. And I learned from a great blackjack player. His name was Paul Keene. He used to work at the Gamblers Bookshop. Everyone in Vegas knew him. All the casinos knew him. And some of the casinos were nice to him, and they allowed him to bet a maximum of $15. So he'd play these single decks. It was a $5 minimum usually, and he'd bet $5 in a high count. He'd go to 15. But he taught me a way of playing that I believe is what really just threw me over the top. You had to be aware of how many cards were left to be played in the dealer's hand, what cards were in the discard pile. Because when they took the discard pile and put that back in the game, you had to know how it changed the count, because you finish a round, those cards go out. If he's right in the middle of dealing, he's going to take the discards, and the hands have not yet been played on the table. What's going to come out? You should know what cards are in the discard pile to be able to judge prior to the hands being dealt. Will the discard pile favor you? Yeah. If so, big bet comes out.
Right.
And I learned how to do that, and I think that was like the magic bullet. It's not something you really can do today because they don't deal out every card, and the single deck games usually stink now. But in the Maxim game, that was the magic bullet. Gamblers always want the magic bullet. I was lucky enough to be there when the magic bullet was at that casino.
Wow, right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Meeting the captain. I would say, there were three things that really, really created the me that you're listening to now.
Yeah.
Meeting the captain. Yeah. The captain has taught me more than anyone about how to play games. You know, how to play the games emotionally correct, how to handle your bankroll, how to structure your day in a casino. Because if you're going 130 days a year and you're playing every day in a casino, how do you structure your day so you're not tired and you're not doing things that are stupid? And I would recommend this, and I've written about this, and I always give the captain credit. This is his idea. You structure your day as close to the day that you normally have. So you normally get up at a certain time, get up at that time. If you eat breakfast first, then eat breakfast first. If you go out for a walk, usually first, go out for a walk. When you would normally go to work, play a session. When you would normally have lunch, have lunch. Structure your gambling day the way you structure a normal day, and you will not lose your normal rhythm. No human being can play 24/7. You can't. Yeah. You can't get into the casino's rhythm, because if you're in the casino's rhythm, the casino's going to win your money. And now we're talking about, advantage players. Mm-hmm. This really would be true of any player.
Yeah.
Structure your day. So if I'm in Vegas for 2 months playing every day, my day is just a regular day. And that really, really was the first piece of advice that I believe saved me. The second piece was always bet little to a big bankroll. So if you're a $100 bettor and you only have $10,000 to play with, you can't bet $100. You can't do that. You're going to have to go down to $10 or something, because what you have to be able to do is survive the bad streaks. Mm-hmm. And even with an edge, you're going to have bad streaks. There's no way around it. I mean, I would love to tell people, do this and you always win, but it doesn't happen. So how do you protect yourself from becoming suicidal? And that is to have a very large bankroll, but your bets are very small in comparison to that. So that's the second thing that he taught me. Using those two things, I believe, was the basis of me being able to have a successful career for over a quarter century.
Now, these are tips for someone who is seriously considering in gambling for serious, making it almost a second job. How about for, say, the casual gamer? Can we run through a few scenarios or different topics that you could touch on?
Oh, yeah, definitely. First of all, I think that if you're a regular gambler, in other words, you're definitely playing against the house edge, that you can't change the house edge by figuring, oh, I'll bet this, I'll bet it this way, I'll double my bet if I lose, I'll increase my bet if I win. None of that can work because that edge will grind away at you. So how do you handle that? Well, number one, you bet the lowest you can bet that gives you the thrill. You ever hear the song Anticipation? Well, if I sing it, you'll lose your entire audience. But it's I think it's Carly Simon that sung the song. It's Anticipation is making me wait, and she's getting more and more excited with the thought of doing something. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the key to gambling for a gambler. There's an anticipatory enjoyment in making a bet with the thought that you might win money. Bet as low as possible to still enjoy that anticipatory feeling.
Yeah.
You don't have to bet 100 if betting 10 makes you have that great anticipatory feeling. So bet the 10. Always play in a very relaxed and slow manner. That keeps the anticipation going up. When these lottery numbers go sky high, like Powerball and Mega Millions and all the rest, people will buy the ticket and wait 4 or 5 days. Well, those 4 or 5 days, you're in an anticipatory mood. It's like you fantasize about what you're going to do with the money. The joy of buying a lottery ticket when the lotto is like through the roof is the anticipation of perhaps winning and the fantasizing and all the rest. You're not gambling once you bought the ticket. You've already made the gamble. Mm-hmm. Now you're just enjoying the anticipation of the result. Well, the same is true in casino gambling. Bet as small as possible. That gives you that anticipatory thrill, and go slow, because the slower you go, the more powerful that anticipation will be. For most gamblers, they do the opposite. I'll make the analogy with drinking. You go to the table, you go to the bar, you go wherever you go, and you order your first drink, Macallan, which is my favorite booze. And you take that first drink, and I'm going to sip it, I'm going to enjoy. Oh, it's wonderful. It goes down, you feel the warmth in your chest. I mean, it really is a gift from the gods. Then you take the second one. Oh, this is great. You drink it just a little bit faster than the first one. Well, by the 10th one, you got the bottle in your hand, and you're slopping you're not enjoying it anymore. You're sloshed. You don't realize that this liquor is extremely expensive, and you're pouring it down your throat like it's water. Well, you're not enjoying it anymore. You're just blitzed. Well, the same is true of a gambler. What happens is maybe in the beginning they're relaxed, they're taking their time, they're enjoying the anticipation, but they start to go faster and faster and faster and faster. After a while, they lose the anticipation, and now they're numb. And it's almost like they're one of the zombies in The Walking Dead. Boom, 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 boom. That's the destructive aspect of gambling. You have to reverse that. Keep that anticipatory thrill in your body, and you will enjoy casino gambling more than anyone.
So if I'm coming up to, let's say a $25 table at a casino, what is a good bankroll?
Okay, if we're talking about blackjack,
yeah.
Blackjack's a curious game because these are just regular numbers. I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm close.
Yeah.
You're going to win about 48% of the time.
Right.
You're going to lose about 52% of the time. Now, that's a huge difference. You think to yourself, oh, man, they've got like 4 wins out of 100 decisions. Well, luckily with blackjack, you get paid 3-2 on a blackjack. You get the split cards. You get the double down. All of that makes up, mostly, for the fact that you're going to win 48% and lose 52%. But in that 48, you're going to have premium hands where you're getting paid more. So what will happen with many blackjack players is they'll tend to be losing more than winning at any given moment of their play.
Yeah.
Then they may get some of these premium hands and come back. And sometimes they get enough premium hands and enough small streaks that they have a decent win. Now, if you're a $25 player, you have to be able to survive the downtimes, which you're going to have. One of the things a lot of people will say, and this is the truth, the worst thing that happens to me. I go to the casino and all of a sudden I lose right away, and then I have to spend the rest of the time trying to get out of the hole. Well, the reason that hole is dug is because you're only winning 48% of the time, and you may not be getting the premium hands in the beginning. And if you're not getting that, luck is not with you. You're in a hole. So I would say, now this is going to sound, wild, but I would have 40 times the amount of money that my minimum bet is. So if you're a $25 player, you're going to go with $1,000. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you'll be able to weather, and I'm talking about a day or a couple of days. You're going to be able to weather, hopefully, the bad times, and the premium hands will be there. Maybe they'll be there right away. And you'll be able to last. The worst thing is to go home with no money in your pocket. Now, here's the other thing to do if you're a gambler playing against the house edge. Usually, people will say, well, quit while you're ahead. Well, great. You win the first hand. What are you going to do, get in a plane and fly home or drive home if you're living in Vegas? No, you're not going to just leave after the first hand. That would be the most ridiculous thing in the world, that saying. I go in, I win the first hand, I leave. Okay, I'll play the next day. I go in, I win the first hand, I leave. I go in, I lose. Now I got to keep playing. And I lose again, and I lose again. Do I never go home? So these are like sayings that have no meaning. What you want to be able to do is last, and you want to be able to come home with some money if at all possible. So this is what I would say. You have an idea in your head, I'm going to play for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, 5 hours. If you're ahead at that time, take the initial money that you came with, whatever that may be, $1,000, $500. That's out of play now. You're never going to use any of that. Take 50% of your win, or take the whole win, or take 90% of the win. You're going to have to determine that on yourself and start to play with that. Play until you think to yourself, I'm done. The I'm done could simply be you lost a few hands and you really want to get out of there with a win. The I'm done could be you lost 50% of your win. But the thing is, you're going to leave with some money. So that would basically be my recommendation. And in blackjack, you have to play the basic strategy. You can't play your own made-up strategy based on intuition and psychic stuff and never hit a 12 against a dealer 2. Don't anger the guy over there who said you're ruining it for the whole table. You're screwing up the cards. Ignore all of that. Play the basic strategy the correct way. The house will have about a 0.5% edge on you, a little more, a little less, depending on the game. And you have a decent shot at them. If you're the gambler and you're not a card counter, you want to play at a full table. You don't want to play heads up against the dealer. You're going to play 100 hands, maybe 150 hands. That's ridiculous. The house edge is going to be grinding really fast. If you're at a table with 5 other people, and sometimes there's 7, you could be at a table with 6 other people, that's great. Game slows down. People are talking. You're having fun. You're having the anticipation of what's going to happen with my next hand. But everything has been brought down to a reasonable rate where the grinding effect on your bankroll will be much less. So that's what you want. You don't want them to have a deep cut. You want them to cut off a lot of cards. You don't want what a card counter wants. Card counter wants every card played. But a regular blackjack player, you don't want all the cards played. You don't have an edge. Why would you want to keep playing? So what you want is you want to see shallow cuts. If you're playing a 6-deck game, which I think would be 6-deck and 2-deck are probably the ones that most people play in Vegas. Let them cut off a third, at least a third, if not half. Don't play the machine games where they just take the hands, throw them back in the machine, the continuous shuffler. That's devastating. You play about 20% more hands, and they have the edge, so you're throwing more and more money into their edge.
Does that also count for
that's it.
Does that also count for the red and blue decks, how they switch off with the auto shuffle? Okay. So ideal would be the hand shuffle.
The only thing with shuffle machines are what you're saying with the blue and the red net. If they have to pause in order to do things, and that pause is kind of sort of as long as what it would take for the dealers to shuffle the cards and start again, then it's okay. But the machines that are just continuous, forget it.
Now, when we're picking a table, what are the things that we should be looking for in terms of, say, how many players? Is there an ideal number of players to play with?
You want one seat available and the rest of the table's full.
Okay.
Now, that's theoretically. If everybody's fat at the table and you're squeezed in, or they're smoking and you don't like smoke, well, obviously you go to a table with fewer people, or people that are, a little more reasonable to your tastes. But I would always go as a regular player. Now, remember, we're talking regular player. Mm-hmm. You want to be at a table with other players. You don't want to be at tables with drunks because they can make... I had a person throw up on me once. This was at the Silverton. I was playing... They had a very good blackjack game there at the time. And I was playing, and the person just turned around, turned neck to me, and just puked on me. Yeah. And I thought, I'm never playing at a table with someone that's having one drink after another. But, it was a pretty disgusting moment. I've seen them throw up at craps tables, too. Ugh. Stay away from the drunks.
So how critical is it, say, if I'm approaching a table and the table's full, 6 players, one open seat, should I stand back and watch to see, make sure everyone's playing basic strategy? Or does that one person throw it off?
It doesn't matter what they're playing. Their hands... Actually, you don't even have to look at that. Now, we're not talking about a card counter.
Right.
You don't even have to look at their hands. It's irrelevant what they're playing. Whether they're playing good strategy, bad strategy, it really has no effect on your hands. You're basically playing against all the cards in the shoe. It doesn't matter what the other people are doing. So that's a lot of people think that, like, there's some order to the cards. Nah, there is no order. You don't know what the order is. Right. And the other people with their hands, they play them however they play them. Yeah. Sadly, that's the truth. We want some mystical thing. And I'm not dismissing the idea of wanting some mystical thing. I mean, there have been nights, and I'm sure you've had them, where everything just works. I mean, it's just going your way. You hit your 16, boom, you get a 5. Yeah. Dealer has a 20. Oh, I got a blackjack. There are nights like that where, a chimp could be winning, as long as the chimp isn't hitting his 20s. But and there are other nights it doesn't matter. You can have the highest counts in the world. I'm in there. You do the correct play and you lose. Yeah. I think of it this way. I think of casino gambling very much like a fight. When I was a kid, I was a boxer, a very bad boxer. I was really good when I was fighting people who didn't know what the hell they were doing. As soon as I got in the ring with a Golden Glove champion, he destroyed me. Every fighter, even Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest of all time, you're going to get punched. You're going to get punched. No one... Unless you hit the guy with one punch and you knock him out. No one goes through a fight, and especially the longer the fight, without getting punched. Yeah. And there is no casino gambler who plays any length of time that's decent who isn't going to take a beating on a given night or a given moment, a given whatever. And you just have to be aware of the fact that that's going to happen.
I think the one superstition that I do hold on to, where I used to think that the person playing to the left or to the right of me, if they're not playing right, it messes up the cards. I've since learned that that's not the case. But the one superstition that I do hold on to, if I am playing at a table by myself and I'm having a really good run and someone comes up to the table, I will politely ask, would you mind waiting to the end of the shoe? I'm on a good run. Is that superstition, or is there something to that?
Totally superstition. Now, if you're a card counter and you know that the deck is full of 10s and aces and they're coming out, well, you don't want anyone to come and sit at the table because you don't want them to take any of those cards. Yeah. You just want it to be between you and the dealer. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of card counters, what they will do is when they realize that, wow, this shoe is full of these high cards, the count is through the roof, I am in the catbird seat, they'll spread their hands. They'll go from one hand to 2 to 3. If the casino allows you to take the whole table, you'll take the whole table. Usually if you do stuff like that, by the way, you'll be banned. But, you want to play into what they call a rich shoe or a rich deck. But if you're a regular player and somebody comes over, it's but to your advantage. They sit down. You're playing fewer hands in.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, it makes the game.
I know it's not, it's not glamorous. When I'm giving the really good advice for the gambler, it's not glamorous. Bet as low as you can, where you still feel the thrill of anticipation. What is the guy nuts? I want to bet my mortgage, but a regular gambler, you're going up against an edge. You got to play intelligently.
Yeah, but anybody listening to this will take the advice of a guy who put his kids through school using gambling money. If they're smart, they'll pay attention.
Well, I have learned over the years. In fact, my youngest son, Mike, once said to me, I said, you teach stuff in school, and, there are only a few kids that are getting like a 90 or something. How come, you tell them, you give them notes, you say, this is what's going to be on the test. They come in and they get 75, 80, some of them get 30. He goes, Dad, everybody should get 100 if you've taught it and they've read the books and everything. But it's not going to happen. No one gets 100, or very few people get 100.
Yeah.
It's because our listening ability and our ability to apply what we've been told, it just isn't totally there. I mean, that's why we get yelled at by our parents when we're little, because we're always screwing up. And don't touch the stove. Oh, well, let me touch the stove. Don't climb out the window. You open the window, you start climbing out. Hopefully you live on the first floor. But we tend to be a species where we do learn. There's no doubt about it. But we learn a lot from just experiencing the bad things, and I think we learn a little less from having others tell us their experience.
Yeah.
I think I'm right in that to a minor degree.
That's going to do it for episode 24 of Faces and Aces Las Vegas. Please join us for part 2 of our interview with Frank, where we get into some good tips for the recreational blackjack player. We're headed out to Vegas on August 26th, 27th, and 28th with a bunch of other podcasts like Afterburn 739, The Mr. BS Show, The Bold and Belligerent Podcast, as well as many others. You're more than welcome to join us. We'll be hitting the Strip, recording podcast episodes, and having a family-style meal at a house that we've rented off Strip. If you would like more information, you can reach out to me on Twitter at FacesandAcesLV. You can leave a message for us on our voicemail line, 702-381-3657, or you can email me, contact@FacesandAcesLV.com. Thanks to Frank for being so generous with his time, and thank you for downloading and listening to the show. And remember, what happens in Vegas ends up on this podcast.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
What casino games represent the best odds for the player?
The casinos have a lot of games. Some games are good, some games are bad. The best game, if you understand what's called basic strategy, is blackjack. As long as you make the right decisions, you can cut the house edge down to 0.5%. That means you'll lose 50 cents for every $100 you bet.
Go.